Houston Stronger, presented by Texas Mattress Makers.
We are Houston Strong.
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 And of course, the Astros gave us such a great gift after Harvey passed. All right, you heard Vel Lewis a little bit earlier. He's a musician, obviously. His home was flooded, but he also wanted to do something for other people, so he has a program where he's giving instruments back to kids who lost them in the floods. We'll talk to him a little bit later. Our next guest has been forced out of his home several times because of flood water. This time around, he's taken matters into his own hands to never flood again. The last time we saw Caesar Wright was right after Harvey passed. He had just been rescued from his house by boat. Since then, he's challenged the amount of money he could get from FEMA, and he flood-proofed his home. Good morning. Good to see you.
Hi, good morning.
You and I have kept in touch over the whole last year, but I'm going to go back to that FEMA thing. It was so confusing to so many people. It's like, who qualifies? Do you have to agree with the amount of money they would give you? And you challenged them.
Right, so our house was flooded twice, once in the Memorial Day flood in 2015, and we went through the entire process there and sort of learned a lot. And then during the 2017 flood, we applied that. And I also did a number of workshops in the community to try to educate people about that process. And the reality is, if you add flood insurance, there's that initial proof of loss where the insurance adjuster estimates the damages, but it's an ongoing process for a year to 2 years to apply for those supplements and really negotiate those damages so that you get the full replacement value.
You say negotiate. A lot of people don't think you can negotiate that.
Absolutely, you have to negotiate because they're going to come in at a price point that's significantly below. In my case, they initially offered about half of what it ultimately cost to repair the house.
Okay.
So through a series of 4 supplements for the 2015 flood, we added additional damages, proved those damages, demonstrated them, and then were able to recoup those damages. And we did that primarily through using a public adjuster, which is something I recommend immediately for anybody that's flooded or has any emergency damage.
You need an advocate.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because you're in a situation where you're stressed, you're tired, you've lost your home,
Right.
but yet you've got to mount a fight
Right.
to get FEMA money, insurance money, and all of it that you need to fix your home and make you whole again.
Yeah, and you don't know what you don't know. So,
Yeah.
public adjusters are essentially insurance adjusters that are your advocate. They work for you rather than the insurance company. And most of them have worked on the other side of the aisle. They were traditional adjusters at one point, so they know the damages that you're entitled to. For me, for instance, I had no idea the types of line items that we could fight or request more money for.
Right.
The public adjuster knows those things, and they can kind of guide you through that process. And while you're at work, just working on getting your life back together, they're out there fighting for you, trying to ensure that you're made whole again.
Yeah. You're a professor at Rice. You're a very methodical thinker, and so you had to do what so many people had to do. It's like, do we sell our home and take a big loss,
Right.
or do we do something to try and make sure we don't flood again? You decided to raise your home.
We did.
And that comes with a cost, but you did the math work.
Right, so one of the things that I teach engineering leadership at Rice. I work with engineering students to teach them project management, things like risk assessment. And so that's what I applied to our situation. We thought about it. We lost a certain amount of equity when our home was damaged, and we knew it's going to cost a certain amount to raise it. So we had to figure out, is it going to be cost effective to elevate the house, or should we just sell it and take a loss? In our case, it was more cost effective to elevate the house. We chose not to the first flood, but after 2 floods, once again, risk management, it's very likely that it's going to be flooded again at some point. So you're almost obligated to take measures to mitigate that.
Speaking of cost, you figured out something that was kind of interesting
Right.
in terms of who's going to raise your home if you decide to do it.
Right. So there are a number of companies in Houston doing foundation repair and elevation. And the price points are dramatically different. We used a company called Leon Foundation Repair that, in our case, offered us a substantially lower rate, about 50% of what some of the other
Almost half
companies,
the other
almost
companies.
half. And the reason being is a lot of these companies are already tied into FEMA contracts, so they're getting paid directly through FEMA, so their price point is much higher. Now, the key thing for people to know, and I just discovered this a few days ago, we just 2 days ago had our house raised over 8 feet, around 9 feet actually. And until December, a lot of these companies are going to be able to offer lower rates. After December, some of the companies are going to be under FEMA contracts. They're going to be being paid directly through FEMA, and the rates are going to go up dramatically, 25 to 50%, if not more. So for people considering elevating, if that's an option, there's a very limited window during which I think it will be cost effective, and that's really through December.
Yeah, and you got to do your homework and comparison. All right, so raise his house 9 feet.
What goes through your mind when you see your house 9 feet off the ground?
It's a process, so it happens in stages. You know, first they come in and these guys dig trenches under your house, because you look at it and you think, how are they going to raise a house from 1960 without it just falling apart, right? Yeah. And they dig the trenches under your house, and you're watching that for about a week. It takes about a week. Then when they start to put the jacks under it, you still, I think, or in my case, I still didn't believe this was going to be effective until you see it happening. You're just fingers crossed.
Saw the video there, it's amazing.
Yeah, you're just watching it happen, and it starts to move, and you just start to see dirt falling from the edges of the foundation. And then all of a sudden, it's about 6 inches up. And they raise it usually 8 inches that first push, and you can see daylight through your house to the other side of the slab.
Yeah, it's crazy. Okay, at 9 feet, you should never flood again. If you do, we're all gone. It's Armageddon. We're all done.
You are not allowed to flood again.
There's zombies walking the street. That's actually my retirement plan is the zombie apocalypse, and that's what it would take for our house to flood again.
All right, Caesar, thank you very much for keeping in touch and doing the work to help other people. Up next. Mark chapter 12, verse 31 says, be sympathetic, love one another, and be compassionate. Second Baptist Church might add the line, and be ready to work. How volunteers made an impact then and are ready to tackle the next challenge.